We have a few small items and upgrades we need to do on the cars today. These are both cosmetic and performance, and you can see we have a Tech 2 we're going to need to use. But let's get started with the 9.3. First item I want to start with setting the theme for little things that we need to get done. I promise you some of them are pretty interesting and cool, but this you might recognize as the little leather piece that goes behind the steering wheel. My steering wheel is usually kind of pushed as far back as I can, so you don't usually see this, but I know it's there and it bothers the crap out of me. Look at how rough and beat up this piece is. So unfortunately, to remove it, it does mean we need to remove the steering wheel and the sim, and then it just kind of clips in, but let's go ahead and start with that process. Now, if you're wondering what steering wheel this is, click the video in the top corner to check it out. It is a MapTune wheel. I absolutely love it. In that video, I show in more detail how to remove the airbag. There are two holes, one on either side of the steering wheel, and you have to stick something in there to pry the little metal bar or the metal clip that's in there that holds the airbag to the steering wheel. So it's one of those things that either works right away, or as you can see here, I'm struggling a bit with it. Pay no attention to the change in clothes. I struggled mightily to get this airbag off and had to call it a night. Jeez, as you can see, even once it's released, it still fights me like crazy. This thing is such a pain. Let's get our steering wheel off. All right, now we have access to our sim. So I'm going to pull that down and pull the steering column out so that way I have some better access. So I'm gonna just kind of reach around here and these all just clip out. And if I reach under here, there's a connector for the sim. Can undo that. See it right there. And the sim is just held on by two gigantic plastic clips like that. And now you can remove this old gross, ugh, that's really nasty. Quite the difference. So before we install this, if you remember from a recent video, I actually picked up these buttons for my 9.3. As you can see, they're pretty disgusting, but they importantly have paddle shift buttons on them. My current wheel does not. So I want to clean these up the best I can and then wrap these in carbon. It's actually going to be quite an involved process. So let's get started on it. To disassemble these, there are three little tiny screws on the back. I'm using a T6 Torx bit. Actually, there's a fourth one in here. Always forget about it because you can't see it. Then just kind of gently pull that apart. So there's our little contact pad for the paddle shifter. Kind of cool to see how that works. Can't kind of massage all that out of there. Now we're left with just our buttons, and these are just held on with some little plastic tabs. Those come off pretty easily. Just using a tiny flathead to get in here and pry these little pieces off very gently because of course it's all plastic. There we go. There's our piece we need to clean and wrap. So to be honest, I don't really care how this looks. What I do care about is how the buttons look, because if some of the buttons don't clean up, then that means we might have to harvest them from my current. I mean, look at all that crap that already just came off. If these don't clean up, then we're gonna have to pull my old buttons apart and harvest the nice looking buttons. So I'm just going to clean these one by one, but even just the paddle shift button I mean, look at all the dirt that came off that. The seek button was probably the dirtiest of them all. If this one cleans up, I'll have a good feeling about the rest. Actually, wow, that dried. Look at how well that cleaned up. Oh, I'm amazed. I thought these buttons were going to need to be replaced. We got all of that gunk off just with some alcohol. There's a little bit of a before, I guess, of what the other side looks like. I mean, it completely changed the color of them. That's crazy. Now comes the not so fun part, or the tedious part, really, which is the wrap. So the way I did this on the current buttons is I essentially overlaid the wrap onto this whole thing and then meticulously cut it out. So that way, I mean, you can see I'm so happy with how this turned out. Like, I got a perfect result, and it's been over a year and it still looks this good. So we're going to do that same process. It's going to be very time consuming and tedious. Let's hope for a good result. I'm going to press this down onto here. Fold this up. We're just shaving off a lot of this excess. So already you can see we're starting to make some good progress. So we definitely have a bit of cleanup to do. As you can tell, this is all extremely tedious, and I think you guys get the point. So now I just need to clean up some of these little rough edges here. You can see a couple, and then I'll actually go in and cut out these buttons. About an hour later, not 100% happy with this, but it looks pretty good. So let's test fit these buttons, see how it all goes together. I'd say that looks pretty good. So I'm going to get it screwed back in on the back, and we'll do the same thing to the other side and hope these buttons clean up just as well. Eventually. Both sets are done. I think my second set over here turned out a bit better. Overall, though, I'm very happy with both. Cool little upgrade. Now we just have the easy stuff left. All right, let's get it all installed in the car. Okay, we can finally begin reassembly. So let's start with our new little cover here, which I've been waiting months to put in. So we have that on. Now our sim can slide on. Now connect this into the sim. Just a small little thing, but knowing that that looks better just makes me feel a lot better about the car. Get our steering wheel on there. Don't forget your steering wheel bolt. Now our airbag. So we have the little ground that goes on the steering wheel and the little controls for the steering wheel buttons, and then our big connector goes into the sim. So with that roughly in place, we now have everything connected. So I'm going to reconnect my battery, and then I just want to confirm everything works before I click the steering wheel or the airbag back into place. I'm going to test all the buttons here. Those are working. This is a really, really tight fit with this airbag. It's probably why it's so hard to take off. There we go. Let's make sure my horn works. Now we only have one question left to answer, and that is, do our paddle shifters work? If I put her in drive, so we got it in drive, it's in manual 1. Yeah, so they don't seem to be working. So that means that I'm gonna have to marry this with a Tech 2. Took the car for a short drive, confirmed that the paddle shifters are not working. So we're gonna need to marry these to the car. So there's actually a way you can do this with the Tech 2. You go to add, remove, and then you go down to accessories. There is a steering wheel control Centronic button here. We're gonna add that. So it looks like it wants me to get security access, unfortunately. But hopefully this will be quick and simple. All right, got security access. And that's fine. None of these are learned because I had the battery disconnected last night, so I got to relearn all of those. That's no problem. All right, I say we take it for a short little drive, see if we have functioning paddle shifters. It's late at night, the buttons don't light up, so I'll turn on the interior light here, but they're working. Oh yeah, that's awesome. I didn't realize how much I missed these. Not that I shift the car manually very often, but when I do, it is a pain to have to do it down here. Clearly the perfect solution would just be to have a third pedal, but this'll do for now. I know at the end of the day, it's just paddle shifters, it's just the leather behind the steering wheel, it's just this, it's just that, but these little things all add up to make a substantial impact on the driving experience. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. We're along for the ride. Kind of moral of the story, little things can make a big difference. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. Help me reach my goal of 100,000 subscribers. I'm gonna go drive this car a bit and enjoy it. I'll see you in the next one.